Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk a little bit about burnout and how I manage stress when work is really busy, when life is really busy, and when I can sense that maybe burnout is coming or that there's impending burnout. I have been thinking about this because, as you may have seen if you follow me on Instagram, I wrote a whole long post about that and about how looking back over 2019, it's been like a really great year. It's been a busy year work-wise. So I guess that's what I mean when I say it's been a good year. It's been a good business year. And of course, it's been a great personal year as well because we had another baby and we absolutely adore her. But it was also a really challenging year, and I know it was not my most stressful year because I've been really healthy this year. And if you've watched this channel for a while, you'll know that I have had some significant health struggles in the past. So that's absolutely something to be grateful for. But we did a major move, and even though as a freelancer, you want to have work, I want to have work. I'm so grateful when I do. It can be really stressful when all the work comes at once, and then also when you have a new baby, there's a loss of sleep and a big adjustment to a new way of life, all of that. So as I said in the Instagram post, mostly all good things in 2019, but even all good things, if they're a lot and they're all on top of one another, can generate stress. So I thought I would talk some about how I felt about that and how I manage it, and just some thoughts on that process. So hopefully you will find some of this helpful. Okay, so first up, when I know I'm going into a really busy season, or when I can tell that I feel kind of under the pressure and am going to have a lot of stress coming up, I find that a key for me is to stay motivated. And one of the best ways that I know to stay motivated and not to just feel like, I'm a chicken running around with my head cut off is to plan and prioritize. So I pretty much always have a few different to-do lists going, actually. I tend to write stuff down on random scraps of pieces of paper. And I also have a big calendar on my wall that I try to plot out different projects, like projects that are going to be weeks long. But the backbone, really the cornerstone of my planning process, is just the Reminders app, which is native on Mac and on iPhone. And the reason I like that so much is because it lets me add things to my list by speaking them. So whenever something pops into my head, I can just say, email this client to my work list, and then it will automatically show up there. I have learned that one of the biggest precipitators of stress and anxiety for me is having this sense that there's like all this stuff that I have to do that I may not be able to remember. And maybe I don't even know all the things that I have to do. So it seems counterintuitive, but for me, actually just constantly, anytime something pops up, getting it out of my head onto the list, it makes me feel a lot better. And then it also enables me to plan what I really need to do based on concrete things rather than just this sense of impending doom, this sense that there's so much busyness coming down the pipeline or that I'm not going to be able to handle it. So having a really clear, up-to-date list that has everything on it that I can plan and order and prioritize makes a big difference. So along with that, I find that it's really helpful for me to expect the unexpected in my planning. So when I agree to a timeline, this is particularly related to client work or anything that has a deadline, I guess, even if it's a self-imposed deadline. At this point, I just plan on things taking longer than they actually do. I used to kind of build in a window of like trying to accommodate maybe even like a 30% longer time frame than I would actually need, just in case things went wrong. And over the years, I have gotten quite a lot more efficient, and things are actually faster for me. Some things are actually faster for me than they used to be. So now I'd say I probably plan on trying to plan for about 20% of, I don't want to say scope creep because that's not what it is, but like 20% ballooning in time, I guess. So if I think a project is going to take me 4 days, then I might try to estimate for the client that it's going to be 5 days, just in case something goes wrong, in case they're late in getting me feedback, in case, I have some sort of equipment malfunction that I have to figure out, in case Penelope gets into the studio and scribbles on something. I don't know. There's all kinds of different things that could go wrong, but just having that little buffer, not planning everything like up to the absolute last minute, makes a huge difference. And then the next point, I also like to really try when things are getting busy, when it's really crunch time, when there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, I like to try to strategically minimize the things that I know that I'm not going to be able to work on, or that don't have to get done right then. So back to my list, this giant list that I have that has all of my work tasks on it. If I know that I'm not going to get to something for a couple of weeks, say it's January 15th and I know I'm not going to get to something until the end of February, I'll just put a date on those items that says something like, February 25th or whatever, and then I'll just bump everything down below that date so that I'm not even looking at it. I am looking at only the things that I know that I absolutely have to do, and I have strategically chosen those things that can be minimized to take care of them later. But they still are on the list, and that's a big important thing for me in making me feel like I have some control and am being strategic in my choices and not just reacting to things. So next up, this one, I'm just going to warn you, this is going to sound super pessimistic, but I don't mean it that way, and it's helpful for me, so it may not be for you, but for me, it is really helpful to expect that I'm going to have bad feelings, to expect that I'm going to feel stressed, to expect that I'm going to feel anxious, just to know that that is a part of the experience of being busy. It was the same when I was in school. It was the same, even when I was a little kid and I would feel overwhelmed, I would have some of these same feelings. So I know myself well enough by now to know that if I am feeling under pressure, if there's a lot of stuff to get done and what feels like not enough time, I am going to have bad feelings. I'm going to feel anxious. I'm going to feel probably overly self-critical and unable to really separate the inner critic in my brain the way that I usually do. And that's important because I know that when I'm in one of those really busy times, one of the things that's happening in those busy times is I'm making a lot of work. I'm churning out a lot of work. And often if I am in that headspace, I am more critical of that work and it's harder for me to feel satisfied with it. So knowing that that's just going to be a feature of the landscape, that's going to be part of the process, it enables me to really kind of question and be able to say, okay, I'm feeling really critical of this right now, but I know that even though I feel that way, it's probably fine, and this is just where I am at emotionally. So right along with that, this might not even need to be a separate point, but the way that I handle that is I really try to accept those feelings. So expecting those feelings, expecting and anticipating that I'm going to have that anxiety and that self-criticism, and then just trying to accept it when it happens, because that is just the way that I'm feeling, and I can't really do anything about how I feel. I can make choices about how I behave, but those feelings are going to come up, and that's just kind of a part of the process. So expecting it, expecting that they will come up, and then accepting them when they do, and trying to, just remain with those feelings, remain in the present, and still keep taking steps to do what I need to do. For me, that really helps me from getting overwhelmed, helps me from getting bogged down. The really sticky part comes for me if I am feeling that way and I'm really trying not to, and I'm trying to push it away and say, no, I'm not feeling like this. No, I'm not feeling self-critical. No, I'm not anxious. Everything's fine. Like if I accept it, it's like the grip immediately loosens. So again, that's kind of my personal way of dealing with it, and it may not work for some people. It may, depending on where you're at, your personality type may deal with it differently, but for me, that is super helpful. And the next thing is I try not to make decisions about the future, about future projects, about future practices. I try not to make decisions about what's coming next when I am in that headspace. So if I'm in that really negative, anxiety prone, self-critical headspace, trying to decide what comes next is just it's not easy, and I will be probably more prone to make a decision that I'm not happy with. And it can go one of two ways. It could be that I get asked to do something by a client and I try to make a decision about it when I'm feeling really self-critical and anxious. And I will say to myself, oh, well, there's not going to be any more work next month, or I better say yes to this right now because who knows when the next thing will come along. So that's not what I want for motivation when I say yes to a project. And then on the inverse, it could be that I would say, oh, well, I'm terrible. I can't do anything right anymore. I'm going to have to just say yes to this project because I'm just not up to the task. So, say no to this project because I'm not up to the task. So reacting out of that emotional space could make me do either one of those. Could make me say yes to something that's unrealistic that I don't really want to do because I'm doing it out of fear. Or it could make me say no to something that I actually could be really great at and could really enjoy, again, out of fear and anxiety. Now, that can be tricky, of course, because sometimes, especially if it's busy and stressful, I will be getting client requests when I am feeling that way. So I'm already stressed working on multiple other client projects or other stuff going on in my personal life. And then another request will come through and I do have to answer it at that point. So if I'm in that place where I have to give a response to something, where I have to make a decision about the future, it's not like a self-initiated project or something that I'm, deciding for myself about my career, about my business. If I have to respond in that way, then I will do what I talked about earlier, where I'll try to just notice where I'm at emotionally and try to accept those feelings and sit with those feelings for a little while. But noticing the feelings, accepting the feelings for what they are, and then trying to make the decision based on my values. So this is something that my brother, who is actually a counselor, a therapist, he has taught me about this and talked to me about this over the years, and I find it super, super helpful. And it's the idea that you, when you're making decisions, when you're in a place where you feel stressed, when you're in a place where you feel anxious, and you have to decide something, try not to have the decision be out of your anxiety. Have the decision be out of your values. So the things that you think are important in life, the direction that you want to go, the kind of person that you want to be. So if I am able to take that step back, accept my feelings, notice where I'm at, and say, okay, well, what are my values? Like, what are the things that are important to me in this situation? What direction do I want to go? And then make the decision out of that place, it is always, well, I shouldn't say always, it is much more likely to be a decision that I am happy with and that I feel good about than if I had made the decision based on the anxiety and the self-criticism. Let me know if you have any questions on this topic or any related ideas for a future video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And of course, if you are feeling stressed, if you're in a place where you kind of sense that wave of burnout coming, I hope you can do what you need to do to take care of yourself first. That is so important. If, as creative people, if we are just constantly trying to wring that creativity out, squeeze it, like imagine yourself as a sponge. If you're just being squeezed over and over and over again, eventually there's not going to be any water left in that sponge. So treat yourself as the very precious, renewable resource that you are, but recognize that that renewable resource still needs protecting. So if you have ideas as well on things that you do to manage stress and to get through really intense times with work and life, please leave those in the comments. And yes, give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please subscribe if you're new. Thank you, patrons, for sponsoring this video. Thank you, Meg, for editing it. And I hope everybody has a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.